Okay, so good morning. So again, last meeting we discussed the AISC requirements in designing beams under flexure. Okay, so if you recall, what we discussed last meeting is under flexure, you have three limit states. Number one is based on yielding. Number two is based on lateral torsional buckling. And number three, based on the flange local buckling. Okay, yielding, if our beams is stable, lateral torsional buckling depends on the bracing or the unbraced length of your beams, right? If your beams have enough bracing, maybe they fall on uh, uh, under plastic. Okay, then if your beams is greater than LP, between LP to LR, you have this inelastic buckling, and greater than LR, you have this elastic buckling. And then we have another limit state, which is the flange local buckling, where this will only happen if you have non-compact flanges or non-compact unstiffened elements. Okay, so there as you can see that the maximum potential of our beams is the plastic moment. Okay, if our beams is not stable, this plastic moment cannot reach. Okay, you cannot reach this plastic moment, and therefore your nominal capacity will be less than this plastic moment. Okay, so that basically that is the summary of our discussion for the AISC requirements for the design of beams under flexure. Take note of this word, under flexure. Okay, so under bending or under flexure. So this time, module 10, okay, we need to know the other requirements in designing beams. Okay, so take note of this. The general pagde-design ng whole beams is based on the flexure or the bending, based on the shear requirements, and based on the flexion. Okay, so if you are the designer of a building or a project, okay, your beams should pass based on flexure, based on strength, based on flexure, based on the shear, and based on the deflection of the beam. So this is the three basic criteria for designing of beams. Again, your beams should pass the flexure requirements, your beams should pass the shear requirements, and your beam should pass the deflection requirements. So this flexure and shear is what we call the strength requirement. So basically, this flexure and shear is based on the strength of your beam, and this deflection is based on the serviceability of the beam. Serviceability of the beams. Okay. So this will be your this will be the topics that will be discussed in this module 10. The shear requirements and the deflection requirements based on the AISC provisions. Again, the AISC provisions is the same to the NCP 2015. Okay. So under shear requirements. So as you all know, let's consider this wooden planks. Okay, let's consider this wooden planks. And if we apply glue, so this is what we call the glue laminated beams. Okay, so this is the fibers. This will be the fibers of our beams. Okay, so imagine you have these fibers, and if you apply a load on the free ends of cantilever beam, you have these horizontal stresses. So you have these horizontal stresses along your fibers. So imagine you have here your wide beam or wide flange. Okay, you have your wide flange, and you have fibers. Okay, steel fibers. Let's consider assuming you have a steel fibers. Okay, masyado siyang maliit kaya hindi siya natin nakikita. Okay, so again, if we apply a load on the ends, just like this one, you have a horizontal stresses along the fibers. Okay, so this one. So your shear strength is the limit state, one of the limit state for beams. Okay, so there is what we call the shear yielding of the web and the shear buckling of the web. So under the shear yielding of the web, we have a failure by excessive deformation. And under the shear buckling of the web, we have a slender webs may buckle prior to yielding. Okay, so under shear limit state of the beam, we have the shear yielding of the web and the shear buckling of the web. Okay, so shear yielding is caused by excessive deformation, and shear buckling happens when you have a large width to thickness ratio or large D over TW. Okay, so under the shear strength of our beams, okay, so let us consider this as a wide flange. Let us consider this wide flange with total depth D, with thickness given TW, an H, and yung K designing yung from the ends of your flange to the fillet radius. And this will like this is the K. Okay, so this is your K. So the shear stress at the middle of the web is much greater than the others. Okay, so if you recall your strength of materials in drawing or graphing the stress of a section, okay, you all know that the shear stress diagram for I-beam is just like this one. So this is a shear stress diagram for I-beam. Okay, this is a shear stress diagram for I-beam. Okay, so as you can see that you have a very a very large shear stress at the middle of your at the middle of your webs. Okay, at the middle of our webs, we have a very large shear compared to dito sa mga ganito. Okay, so compared to, let's say this one, let's say this one. Okay, this is a shear stress diagram. So let's say this is your forces. Let's say this is 0. Okay, so and this will be the shear stress diagram. Okay, at this portion, from the edge of your, from the upper portion of the flanges, you almost have 0. You almost have 0 shear stresses. Then at the bottom of the flanges, of the top flanges, you have this linearly increasing loads, linearly increasing shear stress. Okay, so as you can see, this one. Then from this K and up to the fillet, so this will be the distance, this distance over here. Okay, yung bottom of the flanges to the bottom of the K or the fillet is the same stresses, have the same stresses. Then inside of that K up to the added K distance, yung H, this H distance is a larger shear stresses, okay, a little larger than V over TW. So as you can see, you have here a very large shear stresses. Okay, so at this point, you have this shear stress, then going further, you have this shear stress. Okay, so take note that the shear stress at the middle of the web is much greater than the others. So therefore, we are going to consider the whole web. So shear stress generally are low in flange area. Okay. So shear stress are generally low in the flange area. So it is very obvious in this shear stress diagram. So this is the flange area, and this is the flange area. So they are very small compared to the shear stress in the web area. Okay, so however, this is contradicting when we are talking about the moment stresses. Now, if we are talking about the moment stresses, if you recall the moment stresses for I-beam is you have here this one, right? At this portion, you have a large stress. Then at the middle, you almost have zero stresses. So this is the shear, the bending stress diagram for an I-beam. So this is contradicting to the shear stress diagram for I-beam. So for the simplification, assumptions are made by the AISC that the shear and moment stresses are independent. They are independent to each other. And take note of this assumptions that the only web or the web members only carries the entire shear force. Okay, this is very obvious again since the shear stress in the I-beam is obviously greater in the webs. Okay, this is our webs, right? This is our webs. Okay, so this is much greater compared to the others. So therefore, they lead, based on this shear stress diagram, they lead to the assumption that the web only carries the entire shear force. And the shear stress is simplify the average web value. So take note of this also, that the shear stress is basically the force divided by the area of the web. The shear force divided by the area of the web. Okay, the area of the web. So what is the area of the web? You have here this one. So we call this as a web. Okay, this is our total web. Okay, this is our total web. So meaning this force V, okay, this force V is the only force that will carry this this will act to this total web. Okay, so what is the area of this one? Okay, the area of this one is basically the area of the web is basically equals to D times TW. Okay, so therefore, the average shear stress is equals to V over D times W. Okay, the stress on the web average is equals to the force divided by D times TW. Okay, and again, during the theory of discovery of the theory of von Mises failure criterion. Okay, so if you all know that we have different what you call this failure theories. We have different failure theories. So if you have taken up foundation engineering or geotechnical engineering, so di ba narinig niyo doon yung Mohr circle, if you recall Mohr circle, Rankine pressure, okay, and what you call this modified Mohr, okay. So this will fall under the brittle failure. Okay, so in our case for ductile failure, so under the failure stresses, there is this one failure criterion that is widely used in steel design. We call this one as the von Mises failure criterion. Failure criterion. Okay, according to the von Mises failure criterion, the maximum shear stress is related to the yield stress of our beam with a factor of 0.6 Fy. Okay, again, according to von Mises, the maximum shear stress of the ductile member, is related to the yield stress, which is equals to 0.6 Fy. So this comes from the von Mises failure criterion, and this failure criterion is adopted by the AISC. Okay. So this failure criterion is adopted by AISC for the shear strength theory. Okay. So therefore, if this will be the maximum shear stress, so equating our average web shear stress is equals to V over TW to the maximum capacity or the maximum shear stress limit, that is 0.6 Fy. Therefore, this will be your working equation, and therefore the nominal moment is equals to 0.6 Fy times the area of the web. Okay, meaning that the shear stress FB max is equals to 0.6 Fy. This is comes from the von Mises failure criterion. Okay, so there is what we call the shear strength of steel beam based on the AISC provision, accounting for the web backlink. Okay, so if we account the web backlink of our webs, okay, so if we account, let's say this one, so you have a wide flange, then after loading, there is a backlink scenario in your flange, okay, because of axial load, right? Or because of the axial compression. If you recall, if we are designing the steel based on axial, so you remember that there is a local backlink. Okay, so this one. So if we account or if we consider this web backlink, okay, so as you can see, you have here this one. There are shear buckling occurs due to diagonal compressive stresses. So ito yung, kung ititingnan natin siya on this side, if we look at on this side, so our section will be this one. Okay, so magpo-form siya ng ganito. Like this one. Okay, so this will para siyang pag tiningnan mo siya dito sa isang side, magpo-form siya ng ganyang shape. Then up to this point is yung maximum deformation due to the backlink of local web. Okay? So if we consider that one, that is basically the same to diagonal compressive stresses. Yeah, this diagonal compressive stresses. So the extent of the shear buckling depends on the H over TW of the web. Or basically, the extent of shear buckling depends on the width to thickness ratio. So if our if our section is compact, again, we are not considering this cases where you have this web buckling considerations. Okay, so again, based on AISC that needs to account for web buckling, there is potential buckling restraint methods. Okay, so there are this method that can restrain, okay, that can help to minimize your buckling of the web. Okay, so kung ang makikita nyo is this one. So if you check, let's say, saan nga ba to? Sa mga skyway, if you check the skyway here in the Philippines, okay, there is what we call stiffeners. This is stiffeners. Okay, this is the stiffeners. Okay, so they provided stiffeners for accounting the web buckling. So let's say the architectural requirements is basically restricted, and their section is determined to be buckling on the web. Okay, what they need to do is to provide stiffeners or web stiffeners. Okay, they call this one as transverse stiffeners or web stiffeners. Okay, so this web stiffeners is confining the diagonal stresses in the web. So if there is a local buckling in the web, so ang mangyayari kasi dito, magkakaroon ng compressive stresses. This one. So magkakaroon ng compressive stresses dyan and this one. So kapag hindi siya na-restrain, ang mangyayari sa kanya, madadama yung buong webs, the total webs, and madadamay lahat yan. Okay? The stresses will accumulate all throughout the length of the beam. Okay? So that is why they are confining the web with stiffeners, just like this figure. Okay? You have these stiffeners. Okay, so there is a potential buckling restrained by the web slenderness. So if you provide a web stiffeners dito, and web stiffeners at this point, and at this point, you have here yung na-restrain yung web buckling mo. Okay, so if the shear buckling controls by a beam section, the plate section which buckles can be stiffened with stiffeners. So they are typically vertical plates welded to the web, okay, to limit the area that can buckle. So you are restraining the area that can buckle. So imagine if you not provided stiffeners, you have this very large area, potential buckling area. So if you provide stiffeners, it will divide into smaller groups or smaller parts of potential buckling. Okay? So na-divide siya into smaller parts. Okay, so horizontal stiffener plates are also possible but less common. So just like in this figure, we have here the web stiffeners. Okay, the web stiffeners are basically have dimensions A or a distance A with a total height H. Okay, so this is an example of a shear web buckling for steel beams with stiffeners. So you have here diagonal tensions and diagonal compressions. So they act as a basically they act as a strut or a trusses, di ba? So ito naging web members and this one is yung vertical members. Okay? So if we remove this one, okay, there is a possible case where you have a very large buckling at this portion, right? If you remove this one, okay, maybe you have a very large web buckling, but at this portion. Okay, so that is why this is very important in designing web. Okay, in designing the shear strength of the beam. Okay, so the solution, if you found out that your beam is buckling on the web, okay, you need to provide stiffeners in real life. Okay, so additional shear strength when there are web stiffeners. They call the strength mechanism as a tension field action. Okay, they call this as a tension field action if you provide stiffeners in your beams. Okay, when the web is slender, it is more susceptible to web shear buckling. However, there is additional shear strength. Take note, there is additional shear strength beyond the web buckles if you provided this web buckling, or what they call as a tension field action. So if you provide a tension field action, if you provide web stiffeners, there is additional shear strength on your beam. Okay, so the shear strength of the steel beam based on AISC provisions, therefore, from this Vn is equals to 0.6 Fy area of the web to become Vn is equals to 0.6 Fy area of the web times C sub V. Whereas the C sub V is a ratio of critical web stress to shear yield stress. Okay, so this will be the AISC equation. Okay, then the C sub V value is the factor AISC introduced. Okay, so we will see these values of CV on the next slides. Okay, so the shear strength of our beams without web stiffeners, meaning you don't, the designers didn't put web stiffeners in their beams. Okay. So take note that for our class, we will not consider the effect of web stiffeners, and therefore we will not provide web stiffeners, since providing web stiffeners is much difficult and medyo ano siya, intermediate yung pagde-design. Okay, so for this one, if you don't have web stiffeners and basically the area over H of your stiffeners is less than 3, this will fall under this criteria. Okay. Okay, then therefore the shear strength based on the AISC is given by this equation. The nominal shear strength is equals to 0.6 Fy AW times C sub V. So without the tension field action, case 1 for hot rolled eye shapes, okay, you are for hot rolled eye shapes with H over TW less than or equal to 2.24 square root of E over Fy, your equation CV is 1.0, your P sub B is 1.0, and your omega sub B is 1.5. So this is the factor in LRFT. This is the factor for ASD. Okay, and your C sub V value to account the shear stresses is this one, 1.0. Okay. Again, your H, take note of this one. This is H, right? Your H is basically equal to D minus 2 times K over TW. If you don't have K, if you are given, or if your manufacturer don't have these fillet distances, you can also use, so basically this is approximately equal to D minus 2 times thickness of the flange over TW. Okay, if you don't have this data. Okay, then take note that most W shapes with Fy that is less than or equal to 50 KSI, this will fall into this category. Okay, so most W shapes with Fy that is less than 50 KSI falls into this category. Okay, then we have this case 2. So case 2 without tension field action again for all doubly and singly symmetric shapes. Okay, so for this one, for hot rolled eye shapes with this criteria. However, if you have if your beams is not fall in this criteria, okay, hindi siya pumunta dito, ang mangyayari sa kanya, they will fall to case 2. They will fall to case 2. Okay, under case 2, your phi factor based on LRFD is 0.9. And your omega is based on ASD is 1.67. So basically, the only they change the value of phi sub B from 1 to 0.9, then this one from 1.5 to 1.67 for case 2. Okay, then this is also the case for a singly symmetric shapes. Okay. So CV is determined as follows. So you need to solve this time for the value of C sub B. So for H over TW that is less than 1.1 square root of KV times E over Fy, there is no web instability and therefore your CVS equals to 1.0. If your H over TW is greater than this one but less than 1.37, your CV value will be comes from this equation. Then if your H over TW is greater than this one, greater than 1.37, okay, you have a CV value given by this equation. Okay, so under this cases, there is a web instability. Under these cases, there is inelastic web. And under these cases, there is elastic web. Okay, so basically the same sa sa graph given in the lateral torsional buckling of pins. So yung una, you have this web instability, no web instability. Yung pangalawa, between between LP to LR, you have inelastic buckling. Then further to LR, you have elastic buckling. So basically the same concept. Okay. So the only thing that you need, you don't know in this equation is this K sub V, right? Because this one, K sub B, your E is known, Fy is known, H is known, Tw is known. E, Fy, the same. E, Fy, E, Fy. The only thing that you don't know is K sub B. So what is this K sub B? This value of K sub B is given by this equation. Okay, so K sub V is equals to 5 plus 5 over A over H squared. Okay, so this will be your solution if you have stiffeners. Since your stiffeners is the spacing A, spacing of your stiffeners, and H is the height of your stiffeners. Okay, then this equation 5.34, if there is no stiffeners present, okay, so therefore, if in our case, without tension field, without stiffeners, the value of your K sub B is always this one, 5.34. Okay, however, take note of this one. However, your KB is equals to 0.5, KB is equals to 5. Okay, this value of KB is for unstiffened webs. According to the AISC, proportioning limits of I-shaped members state that H over TW in unstiffened girders shall not exceed to 260. Okay, so if your to sums up in this criteria, to sums up, if you don't have tension field action, meaning you don't have stiffeners, okay, you will fall under this equation. Okay, however, using this equation, or maybe using this equation or using this recommendation, okay, so you will use this recommendation if you have H over TW that is less than 260. Okay, if your H over TW is greater than 260 and also you don't have stiffeners, you will fall under this recommendation. Okay, so this is for H over TW that is less than 260, and this one is for other case. Okay, and this one is basically if you have stiffeners, since you have A over H squared in the equations, right? Okay, so that is this case too, without tension field action. So the shear strength with web stiffeners for tension field action. So this time you have web stiffeners. Okay, you have web stiffeners, or your A over H is less than 3. Okay, take note again that for our class, we will not consider the effect of web stiffeners. So I will not give an example problems or an exam that have a web stiffeners. Okay, so maybe you can also check this one. Okay, memorize nyo to. Pwede rin. So for you to understand deeper in the discussion of beam requirements for shear. Okay, so the shear strength of steel beams based on the AISC provisions is nominal shear strength. So for H over TW that is greater than 1.1 kV E over Fy, square root of kV or E over Fy, you have these equations. Okay, so 0.6 Fy AW, then you have this CV2 and the equation over here. Okay, so this will be your nominal capacity. Otherwise, okay, you have this equation. Okay, which is given by this one. So as you can see, you have 0.6 Fy again, 0.6 Fy AW. Then the only difference this time is you have this factor. You have this factor. Okay? So this factor, ano lang ba yung hindi natin alam dito? So what are the factors that we don't know? The only factors is CV2, CV2, yan, CV2 and CV2. We know what is A and H, right? Okay, so the only matters is the CV2. So what is that CV2? CV2, they just denoted as to 2 because this is another constant to account for the shear stresses. So the web shear buckling coefficient CV2 is determined as follows. Okay, yung number 1 is using this equation, so they will fall under CV2, that is 1.0. Number 2, using this equation, they will fall under this equation. And CV2, under this equation, you will fall under this G2-11. So basically, the same siya dito, right? Okay, kapag greater than 1.37, you have this 1.51, right? The same equation. Okay. If you fall to this one, you have the same equation. Okay. Then if you fall to this one, you have the same equation, which is 1.0. Okay. So basically, this factor is the same in without web stiffeners. Okay. So the AISC specification requirements for shear is your VU for LRFD shall be less than or equal to phi times V sub n. So basically, multiply lang natin yung factor to the nominal capacity. Okay? So this is for LRFD. And for AST, your VA shall be less than or equal to Vn divided by omega sub V. Okay, this is for AST. So this is the factor of safety. This is the resistance factor. Okay, your VA is the maximum shear base on the combination of service loads. And this one is for the factor loads. Again, I recall in your exams that you did not consider U1, this 1.4 dead load. This is 1.2 dead load plus 1.6 live load. And this one, you have dead load plus live load. Okay, so you don't consider this U1. Okay, this U1 is governing in in problem 1, I think. Problem 1. Okay, so this is a basic load combination if you only have dead load and live load. If you only have dead load and live load. So basically, just compare the demand to the capacity. Okay, so this will be the demand based on the factor load combination. And this will be the capacity based on the formula given by the AISC. This is the factor based on service load, and this is the formula given by the AISC. Okay, so let's try an example, problem 1. Okay, so you have a question for the requirements for shear before we go to example problems. Okay, sige, let's move on. So number 1, let's check the shear strength of a W14 by 90. Okay, what is the shear strength of W14 by 90? So from the dimensions, okay, so balik tayo dito. Balik tayo for this table. So again, we are not considering tension field action. So let us check if they fall to case 1 or they fall to case 2. Okay, so case 1, we will check this criteria. Okay, so first we need to check this criteria, which is H over TW, that is 25.9. So from the dimensions, part 1 of the manual, the web to thickness ratio of W14 by 90 is 25. Ding, 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 ding.